Hello and welcome back to April-May codes. In today's video, I'm going to get the inventory screen added and the ability to add wood to our inventory once we chop down a tree. I've made a couple changes since my last video. I've added a README file and a git ignore because I went ahead and put my code on GitHub. So if you want to take a look at the code without watching the video, you can check out my GitHub. It'll be linked in the description. The only part of the code that's not available are the assets because I purchased them or got permission to use them for personal use only. So I'm not able to put those on there for you to download. But you can always check out itch.io. They've got a lot of great creators on there, lots of really great asset packs, both free and paid. So you can create your own maps and characters and everything. So I'm in my Pygame Valley PyCharm project right now. And to start with the inventory, I'm actually going to make a new file. Oh, one other change is in assets, I added a new directory pause and added this paused inventory PNG file. So this is what I'm going to use for my inventory. It's got 27 boxes here. It shows the little inventory icon as the menu that you're on. So my others will be like pause crafting and pause relationships, whichever icon at the top is selected. So this is what I'm using for the inventory. So I put that in there, but that's the only other change I've made since my last video. So in pause, I'm going to go ahead and add a new file. This will be called inventory.py. We'll add it to Git. And we're going to import Pygame as usual. From game, import config. And we'll also need the inventory item. So I believe that's from game.states.pause, if I could spell today, dot inventory item. We'll import inventory item. And now we can create our class. We'll just call this inventory. Init is going to take self, a player, and a game. Self.player is equal to player, and self.game is equal to game. Then we'll do self.image, and that's going to be that paused inventory image that I showed you. So we're going to do pygame.transform.scale, and then pygame.image.load, and that is assets/pause/pause inventory.png. And the size we're going to make that is 891 by 417. Self.rect is equal to self.image.getRect. And we're going to basically put it in the center of the screen, but we're going to move it up a little bit. So we're going to do center is equal to config.screen width divided by 2, config.screen height divided by 2 minus 50. All right, then we need a selector image just like for our hotbar. A lot of this is very similar to how I coded the hotbar in the overlay. Self.selector image is equal to pygame.transform.scale, pygame.image.load, assets/overlay slash hotbar selector.png, and that is 50 by 55. Self.selector rect is equal to self.selector image.getRect, and we're going to put the top left at the first position in the inventory, the first box there. So that is going to be 294, 168. These position values was a lot of guess and checking to figure out where exactly I wanted everything. I put a print statement to print the mouse position and then put the cursor where I wanted the box to be approximately, and then just kind of edited those values until it looked how I wanted it to look. So after we get the select direct, we're going to have a hotbar image because we want the hotbar in our inventory screen as well so that we can add things from our inventory to the hotbar. That's going to be pygame.transform.scale, pygame.image.load, and that is asset/overlay/hotbar.png. And the size for that is 500 by 64. Self.hotbarRect is equal to self.hotbarimage.getRect. And we're going to put the center at config.screenWidth divided by 2 plus 130. And then config.screenHeight divided by 2 plus 170. So we're moving it to the right and down a little bit from the center. So it's below our inventory image and kind of to the right. So it lines up with the, let me show you here. It's going to line up under this part of the inventory instead of being centered beneath it. All right, back to inventory.py. After our hotbar rect, we're going to do self.selected slot, and that's going to be equal to 1 to start. Self.selected menu will be equal to inventory. The selected menu in our overlay, our hotbar has slots, and our inventory is going to have slots as well, but it's going to have an inventory slots and hotbar slots. So the slots dictionary will just have 2 keys in it, and then the inventory key will contain the slots values, and then the hotbar key will contain the hotbar slots values. So first I'm going to copy in some code that will look familiar if you watched my hotbar and overlay video. We basically need to recreate the tools. So we're going to create the tools as inventory items and then put them in the tools dictionary with the key being the tool name as a string so that we can access it with player.selectedTool. And that's going to return the inventory item that we created that has the image and everything. All right, now I'm going to copy in some more values because it would just take too long to type all this out. And this is our slots dictionary. So self.slots is equal to a dictionary with 2 keys. The first is inventory and the second is hotbar. And each of these keys contains the slots. So for inventory, it's numbered 1 through 27, and for hotbar, it's numbered 1 through 9, with the first item being the tools. Self.tool, self.player.selectedTool. So we take that string to access the inventory item in our tools dictionary. Each one has a pause, so we know where to position the recs. An amount is none for the tools because it just isn't relevant for that. But for other items, we'll have an amount and a rect. And same for the inventory. It's got an item, which is none by default, the pause, the amount, and the rect. And this was the guess and checking, figuring out exactly what position to put them at. But once I had like the Y's figured out, I knew all of the ones in the first row had the same Y. It's 270, and then 336, and then 402. And same for like the first column is 489, second is 552, and so on. So I got it figured out eventually. All right, now we need a render function. So that is going to go here, render. We'll take self and a surface. We'll do surface.blit, self.image, self.rect to put the inventory image on the screen. Then we'll do surface.blit, self.hotbar image, self.hotbar rect to put that hotbar underneath it. And then surface.blit, self.selector image, and we're going to put that at self.slots, self.selected menu, which is inventory to start, and then a string self.selected slot, because our selected slot is an integer. It's 1, it's just the number 1, not a string 1. So we make it a string so that we can access this value here. I tried doing the dictionary keys as integers and I could not get it to work. I'm not sure if that's just something that's not doable in Python or if I was just doing something wrong, but I couldn't get it to work that way and I did get it to work this way. So this is how I did it. So the self.selected slot and then the pause, the position. And then we're going to do for I in range 128, so that's going to go from 1 to 27. If self.slots inventory, and then we're going to do string I item. So if there's an item, then we'll do surface.blit self.slots inventory, and then string I, and then the item dot image, because each item is going to be an instance of the inventory item class that we created. So it's going to have an image. And that is going to be positioned at, let's just copy this. Positioned at self.slots inventory string I rect. So that's what the recs are there for in the dictionary. And we're going to do self.game.gameManager.draw text. And the screen is going to be the surface. The text is going to be a string of self.slots inventory and then string I and then the amount. The size is 20. Color is config.black. And then the position, the X and Y, we're going to do the bottom right of the rect, but we're going to move it up and to the left a little bit. So we're going to do self.slots inventory and then string I and then rect dot bottom right 0 for the X minus 10. So it's the X position minus 10 to move it to the, I said the right, but to the left a little bit. And then for the Y, we're going to basically do the same thing. So we'll copy that, paste it here, and that's going to be self.slots inventory. I forgot to close the bracket there. Let me do that back here as well. Self.slots inventory string I rect dot bottom right 0 minus 15 to move it up some. So it's not positioned in the very corner because if it were, it would be covered by our selector image. We wouldn't be able to see the number. And I've got a red line here. What am I doing wrong? comma, or close parentheses expected. So I'm closing. I close that one. I shouldn't need another one there. Oh, this should be 1. It's 0 for the x and 1 for the y. Minus 15, and I don't need that there. That's what happened. I was within my bracket still. Okay, that looks good. And then we're going to do the same thing for the hotbar. So for I in range 1, 10, so that will go from 1 to 9, if self.slots hotbar string I item, so if there's an item in the hotbar slot, we'll do surface.blit self.slots hotbar string I item dot image, and the position will be self.slots hotbar string I rect. And if I is not equal to 1, so if it's not the tools, we're going to draw the text on the screen. So I can copy this line and paste it here. Nope, not that line. I can copy this line and paste it here. And so that's going to do self.game.manager.draw text on the surface. The text is going to be the hotbar string I amount. Size is 20, color is black, and then we want self.slots hotbar rect, bottom right 0, and hotbar rect bottom right 1. So if it's not the tool, so if I is not 1, then we're going to draw the text for the amount of the item that we have. All right, now we need a move cursor function, which will take self and actions. So this is going to be, we're going to use our arrow keys to move around in the inventory. If actions right, self.selected slot plus equals 1. If self.selected menu is equal to inventory, so if we're in the inventory, if self.selected slot is greater than 27, then we're going to set self.selected slot back to 1. Else, if we're not in the inventory, if self.selected slot is greater than 9, then we're going to set self.selected slot is equal to 1, because the hotbar doesn't have 27 slots in it. It only has 9. And I think I can just copy this for left, change a couple things here. So if actions left, then we're going to do minus equals 1. And if the slot is less than 1, then it equals 27 when we're in the inventory. Else, I did something wrong here. Yeah, this should be else, and then these should be indented. And then this, let's see, this should be else. And then self.selected slot is equal to 9. How did that happen? There we go. So for moving left, we don't have to check if it's greater than 9 because it's going to be the same thing. If it's less than 1, whether we're in the inventory or that's not right. This line needs to be before this line. There we go. So if self.selected slot is less than 1, whether we're in the inventory or the hotbar, we're going to do something. So if we're in the inventory, we'll set the selected slot to 27. And if we're not, we'll set the selected slot to 9. Okay, that looks good. And now we'll do if actions down. So if actions down, then we're going to check if self.selected menu is equal to inventory, because if we're in the hotbar as a selected menu, down and up aren't going to do anything. And self.selected slot will do plus equal 9. If self.selected slot is greater than 27, self.selected slot minus equals 18. I think that's right. We'll check it when we run the code. And then if actions up, if self.selected menu is equal to inventory, self.selected slot minus equals 9. If self.selected slot is less than 1, then we'll do self.selected slot plus equals 18. And lastly, we're going to check if tab is pressed. So if actions tab, if self.selected menu is equal to inventory, self.selected menu equals hotbar. And we're also, let me put that before we change the menu so we don't have any issues changing the menu. We'll do self.selected slot is equal to 1. So if we're on the inventory and the selected slot is like 12 and we switch to the hotbar, we want to change the selected slot to 1 because there is no 12 in the hotbar. It only goes 1 to 9. So if we press tab when we're on the inventory, we'll change the selected slot to 1 and change the selected menu to the hotbar. Else, so if the selected menu is not inventory, that means it's hotbar. So when we press tab, we'll do self.selected menu is equal to inventory. Oops. And lastly, we're going to do self.selector image, self.selector rect dot top left is equal to self.slots self.selected menu, and then a string self.selected slot, and then the pause. So we're going to reposition the selector rect depending on where we've moved it to. All right, now we need an update hotbar function. I thought this would happen automatically when we change the selected tool, it would update in the inventory, but it wasn't for some reason. So I added this update hotbar function to do it for us. So that's just going to be self.slots hotbar 1 item is equal to self.tools self.player.selected tool. All right, and now let's put our update function in there. So that's going to be def update, which will take self, delta time, and action. First, we'll do self.move cursor, which takes actions. And we'll do self.update hotbar, self.game.game, I forgot a dot there, self.game.gamemanager.reset keys, and then self.render, and the screen is going to be self.game.gamemanager.screen. That's the surface. All right, we got our move cursor, our update hotbar, and our update. Let's see. Let's go ahead and add an add function. So def add will take self, the item, and the amount. And for I in range 128, if not self.slots inventory, and then string I item. So if there is no item in that slot, then we're going to do self.slots inventory string I item is equal to the item, and self.slots inventory string I amount is equal to the amount. And then we'll break because we're just doing that for the very first inventory slot that does not have an item. And there's probably a better way to do that, but I haven't figured it out yet. All right, now let's figure out how to add our inventory to the game. We want to bring it up, but only when the inventory key is pressed. So in player.py, I've got a lot of stuff open here I can close. We're going to go to player.py, minimize the animations. We are going to go to input, and we need to make a few changes here. Let's see. So I'm going to add a timer for my inventory so that it doesn't pop up and disappear right away. So we'll just call this inventory, and we'll make it a timer, and we'll do probably 200 is okay. We need a comma there. And then I need to add an attribute display inventory. Let me see where I put that. Okay, so we can just put it right here. Self.display inventory is equal to false. And then down in input, we're going to check if those timers are not active. But then we're going to do if actions inventory and not self.timers inventory dot active, then self.timers inventory dot activate, and if self.display inventory is equal to false, self.display inventory will be equal to true, else self.display inventory will be equal to false. What's this? Should just say if not self.display inventory. Yeah, that looks better. So if not self.display inventory, we'll set display inventory to true. Otherwise, we'll set it to false. If it's already true, we'll set it to false. And then I don't want my character to move around if the inventory is up. So we're going to do if not self.display inventory. So if display inventory is set to false, then we'll check for all these actions. But if it's set to true, we won't. So that's great, but it doesn't actually put our inventory on the screen. So I'm going to add a function called toggle inventory, which will just take self, and if self.display inventory, so if it's equal to true, we'll do self.inventory.render self.game. Does player have a reference to game? I think it does. Game manager.screen as a surface. And we'll do self.inventory.update. That's going to take self.game.gameManager.delta time and self.game.gameManager.actions, which I misspelled. There we go. But we don't have, the player doesn't have an inventory yet. So let's add that. Let's see, how did I do that? Before our functions in our init, and put it right at the bottom here, we'll do self.inventory is equal to inventory, and that takes a game, so self.game. I think I did player first, so we'll do self as a player, and then self.game as the game. And we'll import inventory. And I think that is all we need to get the inventory showing up on the screen. So let's see. Nope, I did something wrong. There's no pickaxe.png, and yes, there is. Assets/overlay. Oh, it says overlay images. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I named it something different in the code that I copied it over from. So let me just change that. That's up here. This should just be overlay. And there's one more. Here it is. Okay. Try that again. Nope, something's still going wrong. Not a file object. In inventory item. Oh, you know what? Because I did pygame.image.load image in the inventory item. So when we create the item, it just needs to be a path, and then we'll just have to scale it up outside of it. So we don't need to do pygame.image.load because we're already doing that when we create the inventory item. So this should just be a path. And we'll do 48 by 48 after. So we'll do pickaxe.image equals pygame.transform.scale. And then we'll do pickaxe.image 48 by 48. And I'll copy that line, paste it here, here, and here. This will be water.image, water. This will be axe, and this will be axe. And last one, this will be hoe. And back here, this will be hoe. Then I've got to change these just to the path. So delete all this extra stuff. And then we're going to do the same thing here. And here. Okay, now it should work. Let's see. We got our game running, so that's a good sign. If we press I for inventory, oh, nothing happens. I wonder why not. Let's check our player class. We create the inventory. So if those timers aren't active, if actions inventory, let me make sure I have inventory as one of the actions in the game state manager. Yep, the key I is inventory. And up here, I is inventory to true. And is it in the dictionary? Inventory, I spelled it right. So I'm doing something wrong. Oh, I don't call toggle inventory. That needs to be, I believe, in our update function in the player class. Yep, so let's go back to player, all the way down to update, and let's put an extra line there. And right after input, we're going to call self.toggle inventory. Now if we press I, there's our inventory. And if we press the arrow keys, yep, so, oh, when I go up, I'm only going down 1. I should be going down 2. I think that needs to be 27. What about if I go down? Yeah, those need to be 27, not 18. So that's going to be back in inventory. In our move function, Change that to 27 and that to 27, and that should fix it. Let's see. Open our inventory. When we go all the way over, we go to the next one and the next one, and that should take us back to 1. Perfect. And back. Perfect. Down. Good. And up. Good. Oh, but our left isn't working. Left is just taking me back to 9. I did something wrong. If actions left, self.selected slot minus equals 1. And then if it's less than 1, then we make it 27. Oh, else we're making it 9. This just needs to be indented. There we go. Let's try that. Now we can go back, and I should be able to go all the way back. Very good. Now if we press tab, that takes us down to our hotbar. Up and down aren't doing anything, and we can move left and right, and that looks perfect. And then we'll press I again to close our inventory. And now we can move around. We can use the arrow keys to change our tool. Now I'm on the axe. If I open the inventory, there's the axe. Watering can, pickaxe, back to the hoe. Perfect. All right, that looks good. So now let's add a way to add wood to our inventory when we chop down a tree. So for that, I need to copy over another asset. Where did I put that? We'll copy that. And in assets, we'll put this in pause as well. Just call it items.png. So this is, zoom in a bit, just a list of items that are going to be in the inventory. So what I want right now is wood. In my next video, I'm going to work on farming, tilling the soil, planting plants, and adding the plants to the inventory once they're harvested. So we'll use this carrot here to test that out. But for now, I just want the wood. So I'm going to go to sprites, which is where my tree class is. And we're going to make a few changes. To start, in tree, well, maybe in generic. I guess I don't need it for every class, but I need it for tree and stump. So I put it in generic, every class would have it, but then so would tree and stump. No, I'll just put it in tree and stump. So we'll do self.inventory tiles is equal to a tile sheet. This is from one of my earlier videos. I got it from, oh, I don't remember the channel name. I'll link it in the video in the description though. His tile sheet class to access the different sprites from a tile sheet. So we're going to create a tile sheet, and the path is going to be assets/pause/ what did I call it? items.png. The width is 16 and the height is 16. And the rows, there's 12, and the columns, there are 10. And let's copy that and put it in our stump class as well. And we'll import tile sheet. All right, now in our check death function, we're going to kill it but we're gonna do, let's see. I have another function called player add. Does that do inventory.add? Why did I add the inventory add? It does use inventory.add. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this in game state manager because that's where we're keeping all of our big functions for the game. Well, I guess maybe it should be in game. Game just has the game loop. What's in game state manager? The draw text, reset keys, check actions, or check events, render and update, load states. Those are all relevant to the overall game. So I think I'm going to put this in game. Or maybe I could just put it in the tree class. No, because I'll need it for to add other things to the inventory as well. So it's going to go in game. So we'll call this player add. It's going to take self, the item type, the item, the image, and the amount. So if item player.inventory.items type Sorry, I'm thinking. Let me look at how I did this. I'm going to pause the video real quick and I will be back briefly. Okay, I see what I did. I forgot to add one thing in inventory, and that is the items, which I may or may not keep in there. I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to use it, but right now to keep track of the items in the inventory, I did self.items is equal to a dictionary. Seeds is a dictionary, which means I need a comma after it. Tools, I'm not going to put in there because we're not going to be adding tools or getting rid of tools. We just have tools. Well, actually, when we upgrade our tools, we're going to lose them for a day so that they can be upgraded. So I'll keep tools in there as well. We'll just make it an empty list for now. I'll deal with it when we come to it. Materials is an empty list. And we've got forage that I will add at some point in the game. We've got crops that we will be working on in the next video. Miscellaneous, because I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting. And then coins, we'll just say they start with 500. Okay, So now that we have that in inventory, we can go back to game. And we're going to do if the item is in self.player, game has player, right? Yes, it does. .inventory .items type. So we're using the type that we put in there. So if the item is in the inventory, basically, then self.player.inventory .items type item plus equals amount. And then to add it to the inventory slots, we'll do for I in range 128 if self.player.inventory .slots inventory string I item I misspelled range. All right, so if for each slot, if there's an item in that slot, and then let's copy this because we're going to use it a couple times. If self.player.inventory.slots inventory string I item .name is equal to item. So if there's an item in the slot, if that item is the item we're adding, then we're going to do self.player.inventory.slots inventory string I amount plus equals the amount. All right. So that's the case if the item is in the player's inventory. If it's not, then we're going to do self.player.inventory.add. So this is where we're using that add that we added to inventory. We're going to create an inventory item. So we'll need to import that. And the name is going to be item. There's going to be the type, the image, and then the amount. So if we look back at inventory, add is down here, takes the self, the item, and the amount. So in game.py, we're doing the inventory item, which takes the item type and image, and that's where we close the parentheses there and then put amount outside it because this whole thing is the item, and then we need the amount as well. So we add the item. What does add do? Okay, so that's going to take care of adding it to the slot and adding the amount to the slot and everything. But then we need to add it to our items dictionary as well. So we'll add one more line here. That's just going to be self.player.inventory.items type item is equal to amount. So if it's already in the inventory, we're going to do this. If it's not, we're going to add it to the inventory with these lines of code. So now I need to go back to sprites. And actually, when we create our trees, we need to add player add. so that we have this function available. So after name for stump, I'm going to add player add. I'm going to spell player correctly. And then for tree as well, tree is up here. We're going to add player add. And then we'll just put that down here, self.player add is equal to player add. And we'll do that in stump as well, right under name. Self.player add is equal to player add. And so when we create our trees and our stumps, which we do in farm.py in the setup function, we just need one more value. Player add is equal to self.game. Do we not have a reference to game? Game manager does though. Okay. Self.game manager.game.player add. We'll do the same thing for stump. Self.game manager.game.player add. And we're not calling it, we're just passing the function in. Okay. So now we can go back to sprites, and when we kill the tree, we're going to add some wood to the inventory. So let's see. Let me start with the tree and put that in, and then I'll look at how to do it for the stump. So if check death, we replace the image with the stump surf, change the hitbox self.live equals false, and then we're going to do if self.name is equal to small, then we're going to do self.player add, and that takes the type, which is materials, the item, which is wood, and then the image, which is going to be, shoot, I need to transform the image, but I think in inventory item, so we just want the path, which isn't going to work. I think I'm going to need to change this to just be image. What's that going to mean for all the other lines of code I've written, though? Let's do it and find out. So in overlay, when we create our it's in hotbar. I put hotbar in a separate file than overlay. So we'll just change this to pygame.image.load. And then the image. Oh, come on. There we go. Pygame.image.load. Okay. Do the same thing here. Pygame.image.load. And here. Pygame.image.load. So I could put pygame.transform.scale here and add it instead of doing it after the fact, but I don't want to retype all that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So that's all the changes we need in hotbar. Let's go to inventory and do the same thing. This will be pygame.image.load. Add all the close parentheses to them. and then pygame.image.load, pygame.image.load, and one more, pygame.image.load. That should get rid of all my red lines. Okay.